I'm really glad to welcome you all again to the fifth session of this series. We are trying to address all the felt needs of students, starting from what is psychological well-being. We moved on to what anxiety is all about, then about fear, the emotions that destroys. So now we are moving on to thoughts. Okay, so we had I think almost 3 sessions on emotions, how it is. Okay, and now today we are going to talk about thoughts. As you all see on the screen, today's topic is, what if your brain lies to you? What happens if your brain lies to you? Most of the time we trust a brain, right? Our memory or a decision making, the way we look at the world, our perception. We do trust on the decision or the thought that comes up from our brain. But my question is, what if your brain lies to yourself? How can we find out whether our brain is lying to us or is it the truth? So technically we call it as cognitive distortion. So it's all about our pattern of thinking, why we think the way we think. Okay, so this is what exactly we are going to dwell in today. So how I'm planning to take you is talk a little bit about what thoughts is or our thinking pattern is. Next, about the neuroscience of beliefs and perception. And next, what are the different types of distortions? And then comes how we can change this. Okay. Why I chose the screen was basically because if we have distortion in our thinking, if we have disruptions or kind of perversion in our thinking, what happens is, this is exactly what will happen. There will be a gulf between the where we are and where we have to reach. We may be struggling hard, we may be thinking hard, you may be brainstorming, you want to really work out all your hard work, your abilities, your strengths may not be fruitful for what you have set for. So where you are and where you have to reach has to have a clear pathway. And that is laid basically by your thoughts, by your thinking pattern. But when there is distortion, there is a gulf. That's why most of the time, how much of a hard that you try, you stay where you are, you're not progressing anywhere. Or your goals are not achieved. You're not able to reach your targets. So that is the main reason we targeted this topic for this week. Let's dwell in now. So thoughts. Why thoughts are more important? Thoughts, why are we focusing on thoughts? Basically because as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. What you think is who you are. Your thinking pattern is defining who you are within and out. Okay? How people see you or the image that you present yourself outside also determined by who you think yourself, or it depends on your thinking pattern. That is the importance of thoughts. You will become what you think. Your thoughts are very important. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to think about our own thought process. We do call it as metacognition, or otherwise critical thinking is what we call it as. The metacognition is, we today in this seminar, in this webinar, we're going to think about our own thought process. How am I thinking and why am I thinking in this particular pattern? To understand this better, I want to take you through cognitive model. So this is exactly what happens within you and me. Usually what we see outside is the action, the reaction that we see. The last column, the base one, the reaction, is what you will see and even others would see. But if you just go back, the reason for your action is your automatic thoughts or images. And still going back, there is a situation which would have triggered these thoughts. Moving further deep, there are some strategies that you have used, or there is some rules that would have come up making you to react in a particular way for the particular situation. Even further, if you go, there are some assumptions and core beliefs on which everything is operating. In other words, if I have to tell you, core belief is the foundation or the source from where you get assumptions, the way you get triggered for the situation, your automatic thoughts, and finally your action. So your action is nothing but reflection of your core belief, your belief system. So this is the cognitive model. Let me give an example for this. If you are taking a book and you're trying to read that book, for example, if you have a belief somewhere that you are incompetent, or you don't have ability to read an English book by a foreign author, if this is what is in your core belief, okay, take it in this way. Let it be your subject book or anything, okay, if this is what is your core belief, that you're incompetent, how it will be reflected outside? If you see, it will come up as some attitudes. For example, you may say, it's terrible for me to fail, in the sense, if I am not able to understand this book, you get a sense that you are a failure, you're not able to do things. Or your assumptions will be, if I try to do something difficult, I'll fail, and if I avoid doing it, I'll be okay. So you're reinforcing on your belief system. And now your situation comes where you're reading this new text, and your automatic thoughts will be, this is just too hard. I'm so dumb, I cannot understand it. I'll never master this. I'll never make it. So why should I try it? Because if I try, I'll fail. That's your assumption, okay? So what happens is, your reaction will be, you avoid the task. Physically, you will also feel, kind of heavy in your heart. You feel like you're not able to focus on all these things. Emotionally, you feel, definitely this is not a kind of discouragement. And your action will be, you avoid the task, you keep the book aside, you go switch on the TV. Or you just Google, or, just get into your routine work. You don't try anything new. You don't attempt anything new. This is exactly the cognitive model. So for every action, all these things are operating. That is your automatic thoughts, your assumptions, your core beliefs. Another important point I want you to remember here is, before your core beliefs reflect in your action, there are few things that is happening in between, right? We saw assumptions and automatic thoughts and all. I just want to give a little more glimpse on it. See, between core belief, your belief system, and your automatic thoughts, there are few things that is there, which I want you to remember is three things: attitudes, rules, and assumptions. I've just given it in one point, but three things will happen. There will be an attitude involved, there will be a rule, and there will be an assumption. Okay, so many times we think, we generally use this phrase attitude. She is showing attitude. That person's attitude is not right. All these things. Maybe our definition is little diluted now, but actually the word attitude means how you respond or how you interpret your own belief system. And this interpretation is what is coming out as action. Okay, but actually the reaction is not the attitude, but attitude is something that is deep inside. Let me go to the same example. If you take a book which is difficult for you to read, the belief system is, you're not going to do this, you're incapable to it. Okay, that is your belief system. Somewhere you believe that. And the assumption and the attitude that will follow it will be difficult for me if I'm not able to understand. Or it will be shameful. It will be terrible for me if I'm not able to understand this. This will be the attitude for it. Attitude towards reading, which is based on your core belief system. And then comes a rule within. See, every thought has a rule behind. In your brain, you have a rule. What rule? Give up if a challenge seems too great. This is a rule. I'm just picking one example and explaining you. Okay. So attitude will be, it will be terrible if you fail, if you are not able to understand the book. So the rule following by it will be, give up if a challenge seems too great. If you feel the challenge is too great for you, better give it up. Because if you fail, it is going to be terrible. Because basically the belief system is you're incompetent. Okay. And then comes your assumption that if I try doing something difficult, I'll fail. And if I avoid doing it, I'll be okay. See, these three things bolsters your belief system. It strengthens your belief system. So for every action, there is an automatic thought. Before automatic thought, these three things will happen based on your belief system. That is your attitude towards the situation, your rule, and your assumptions. Okay, I'm really dwelling on this because exactly you have to work on these three things to come out of your distorted thinking pattern. As we saw before, core belief system is something that is dictating all other areas. May it be your attitude, your rule, or assumptions, or your negative automatic thoughts, whatever that is, your core belief system is dictating all these things. So basically, this is what it is. We believe what we want to believe. Okay, so even in our belief system, there is a bias that is going on. When I say, what if your brain lies to you? I'm saying, what if there is a bias that is giving you a skewed view about perception about the reality? Okay, so we are going to dwell in to the origin of the belief system, where it all we learned, what we believe, what is the source of our belief system. Okay, so here I want you to understand the lower, the survival brain is the hindbrain, the backmost, okay? The basal ganglia and your medulla, the back part, the hind part of your brain is your survival brain, okay? Am I safe? Is the question it answers. And next state is your emotional state or your emotion brain, which is like your limbic system. We call it as emotion center. So it answers the question, am I loved? Okay, it tries to do whatever it wants, whatever gets it to answer this question, am I loved? So that's where it pleases people, it tries to exaggerate, it tries to do whatever it is, but it answers this question. And the final one is the executive part. We all know the boss with the brake. What can I learn from this? Or it tries to make decisions, tries to pick in new ideas. All these things happens in the front. Okay, so just have an idea about all these things. Survival is the hindbrain, the center is your emotions, and the frontal is your executive brain. Okay, so the belief and the perception that we have, where do we get all these things from? As we all know, definitely our belief starts from the learning. After birth, every experience that you have, when it is repeated, when it is forceful, when it comes from significant people, it becomes your belief system. There is an association, there is a connection that is happening. The cognitive process starts early and belief system starts to set in. So first of all, if you see, your hindbrain, the lower part of your brain, works towards survival or safety. We all know about Abraham Maslow's theory, right? So beneath it is basic needs, and gradually it needs to emotional needs, social needs, and self-actualization. It is all about our brain thing. Safety needs, then your emotional needs, and then your frontal brain, that is your execution, self-actualization. So the safety, the first priority of your brain is safety. It tries to put you in safe. Okay, it's in a safe place. So in so saying, it tries to put you in a very familiar, comfortable position. That's where your first belief system starts. So it makes you to believe that this situation, these people, or this environment is safe. So you will get to believe that these people, anything that comes from these people, anything that comes from this situation, it's trustworthy. I'm going to believe it. This is the origin. This is where you and me had started to have our belief systems to build. This is the source of our belief system. So it starts from your very young age, from the childhood. So what is the mechanism in our brain? To have you safe. To keep you safe, your brain tries to learn many things. That is one thing. Second, from the reward and the punishment. From a young age, you would have got appreciated for particular things, or you would have got punished for something. Or you are appreciated, or you are neglected, or discouraged for a particular thing. That becomes your belief system. Because again, basically what happens? Your brain is keeping you safe. When there is reward, then that's a safe place. You are in a safe communication with the other person. So it tries to repeat it, and that becomes your belief system. And the third important thing which triggers you to form the belief system is to have control over situation or problem. That's where the superstitious beliefs comes into play. We do believe so many things. I had a friend, she always wears a kind of chain an ornament, particular ornament before exam. If she's wearing that exam, we clearly know, if she wears that ornament, we are very sure that she's going for some test or some interview or something. Because somewhere she believes that ornament is giving her the control over something on which she doesn't have a control. Where it all starts, your survival brain tries to keep you safe. It's keeping you safe from danger or something where there is no control. You do lack your control. So what is the belief system here is, the belief system is, if you do this thing, then the situation will be under control. That's why we believe in so many things, I have just put it as superstitious belief, but we do have a lot of belief basically because we want to have things under control. Whenever things are going out of our control, we are troubled. There is a conflict. We get disturbed. For example, let's take this situation. You are going out during this pandemic situation. You are exposed, unfortunately, without your knowledge, you are getting exposed to a person. Later, you're coming to know that the other person was infected or whatever. Okay. Now, immediately, the brain triggers up and says, you are in danger now. So immediately, your belief system comes to play. And your belief system says, okay, so you did this, and definitely this is going to happen. But your frontal brain, your executing brain, will come up with a different thought and says, no, there is less chance for you to get infected. But if your belief system, that the survival brain belief system is strong, then that's going to win and you're going to end up having panic or anxiousness. There is a clash. So superstitious belief is something, it's again a belief system we have basically to have control over situations. And another thing where how we build our belief system is to have control over problems. So usually what we do is we do have simple steps to solve problem. Okay, you did this, you do this, then that problem will be solved. They don't want to actually look to the consequence of the problem and how to face it or challenge it, but rather they want 1, 2, 3 steps to follow, and they want to solve the problem, because somewhere by so doing they get control over the problem. Okay, you went and exposed, you went without a mask. Okay, now you come, you do wash your hands, do salt goggle, and do this. You'll be fine. I'm not saying these are not going to work, but basically that satisfies you. That keeps you in a safe place. Many a times, this is what we do for the situation. Whenever a problem hits, whenever you feel there is a situation that is out of control, immediately your survival brain pitches in and gives you 3 points. Do this, based on your, and this is how you are building your belief system. So once you build a belief system, any problem comes, immediately these 3 steps pops in, and you look through these filters. You will solve the problem, the existing problem, based on the 3 steps that you set already on your brain. That becomes your filter. And the next reason how we build a belief system is to conform in the community, because only if you conform to a community, you can be safe. Otherwise, your brain tells you, survival brain tells you you're not safe. It tells you only if you are in conformation with the group, you're safe. So what we do, this is where peer pressure comes into play. We try doing many things basically because there is a belief system beneath which tells you, see, unless you conform with these people, you are not safe. It's all in the survival mode, basic survival mode. We always say critical thinking, try doing this, try doing that. Why? Because we want you to move from survival mode to the execution mode. To think, to explore, to critically think, to think out of box. When we say think out of box, bring new rules, try changing new habits, all these things is basically to try to work on your core belief system or what your survival brain is saying. Survival brain is all about safety, control, having protection. So it's all about self-protectiveness. Okay, so many a time we feel, we get discouraged, we react in a particular way because somewhere we feel we are not accepted in the society or we are not respected in the society. What is the reason behind? Because if you're not respected in the society, people are not going to conform with you, identify with you. So if you're not identified with people, you're going to be left alone. So your survival brain says, no, 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 you're not safe alone. You cannot stay alone. If you want to be safe, go. Adapt with their belief system. That's how peer pressure works. This is how, we try to accommodate with people, accommodate with culture. There is good thing as well in this. But if we are going to try to build everything of our life, or we are going to face the reality, life challenges with these belief systems, we are not going to think uniquely. You are not going to think critically. You are not going to challenge the situation. You're not going to progress. We will be settling mediocre. Okay, very much survival. That's all. I was born, I'm going to live, I get a job, I work, finish. You are not going to bring out any difference in your life, neither in your next generation or you're not going to contribute anything to the society. If you're going to stick to the survival mode, nothing is going to change. So the purpose of your life will be very much restricted to safeguard yourself, to protect yourself, to be in control of what is happening around you. That's it. You cannot think beyond. You cannot live for others. You cannot contribute. You cannot make a difference. Nothing of that sort will happen if you are going to settle with the survival brain instincts alone. Of course, it is needed for us to survive, not to thrive. We are going to stand on this and thrive. And the next thing is defense mechanism. Whenever new things comes, we come up with defenses, right? We say, no, I didn't do this. Or we try to blame others. I am not responsible. This is what was my intention. I did this. I did all these defenses basically because somewhere again, your survival brain wants the conformity, the safety, the acceptance of the society, acceptance of the group, and which is again for your safety and self-protection. So, if our belief system is going to be ultimately based on all these things, then we have to question it. We have to stop and think, why am I doing? Should I really accommodate myself with the views of my friends just because I want to be in their group? Or should I stand for my own values? Can I challenge my own belief system? That's why I've written this cues our perception about the reality. If you are not challenging your belief system, which you got from the instincts of safety and self-protection and social conformity, it is definitely going to, you're definitely going to have a distorted perception about the reality, about what is going on in your day-to-day life. Okay. Next is your memory. Very interesting part. This is again plays a very important role in how you think, because as I told you before, your thinking pattern is resting on your belief system. And we saw some sources of where you got your belief system, and definitely this memory is going to play a very important role in your thinking pattern. How you're going to think and how you're going to react is going to be filtered by this memory that you have. Let's see, what are the different types of memory? I hope I remember talking about short-term, long-term memory last week. A quick glimpse on all those things. Short-term memory is something, it's very short-lived and it occupies very little space in your brain. So you are in a conversation, it takes some around like 7 points for memory, that's all. After seventh point, the first one will be deleted. So that short is your short-term memory. It's just a glimpse. So this is exactly what is helping you to stick on with your conversation. You remember what the person said last and you're answering, and you remember what you said last and you're continuing the conversation. Okay, so this is short-term memory. And next is long-term memory. So when a short-term memory, you feel there is an importance, what happens is things are getting moved through a path where things are stored for long-term memory or for your later retrieval. And this long-term memory happens by repetition or by the importance of emotion that is given to it. So whatever you want to bring it to remembrance, you either repeat it or you simplify it so that you remember it, or you associate with something else so that you remember it. So all these process happens for a short-term memory to be converted to long-term memory. Okay, we do all have long-term memories. If I ask you, who was your science teacher when you studied 5th grade, maybe you may not remember, but you may remember your maths teacher in your 2nd grade because she would have had impacted you. Maybe she was the one who embarrassed you before the class, or she may be the one who encouraged you before the class. You remember her still because that had a significance to it. You would have thought about it many times. It became a repetition, and now it becomes your long-term memory. But you don't remember many other things that happened in your 2nd grade or 5th grade. It all stayed as a short-term memory, got erased. Okay, so these are all memories, again, based on the experiences and the situation. Okay, so these memories, again, can disturb your decision making or your lens. These are all can act as a lens through which you see the reality. In your long-term memory, if you remember that your maths teacher telling you, see, maths, you cannot excel in maths because you're dumb in maths. There's no connection between you and maths. Please don't try to do anything in maths. If this is what you heard again and again, and this is what is in your long-term memory, definitely when a challenge comes to you with regard to maths, for example, if you want to go abroad for your studies and you have to write your GRE, and in GRE there is a thing called, or domain called cons. When cons comes in, that's it. Your brain stops. You feel like you're not going to excel in it. That's all. Your belief system pops up, and this is the lens you will wear. What lens? The long-term memory lens you will wear, and it says, math, it won't come to you. You cannot do this. See, this is complicated always. You're going to fail. And this is the lens through which you're going to see. And definitely what happens, it will reflect in your action. And you're going to get good low marks in your quants, and you will say, I know this already. Okay, so this is what long-term memory will play. And next, see, again, I want to put a reminder here. We are looking through all this memory and other thing just to understand how distorted our thinking can be. Why do we have some distorted thinking? Why we see reality in a different way? Okay, so let me pull your attention here now. For flash bulb memory, this is very important memory. Flash bulb memory is something like trauma or some shock that you get in your life, very young age maybe. So why we call it as flash bulb memory is, see, for example, if I'm displaying something on the PPT and you feel that all the points are very important, what you do, you may not, try to keep memory of everything. So you may try to write it, and if you're not able to write it, you click it, you click a shot of it, you take a screenshot of it. Why? Because you feel it is important and you want to go in detail of it later. This is what exactly flash memory is all about. When a person goes through a trauma or an accident or a sexual abuse or some physical abuse or something, which is unexpected happens to a person, or maybe a disaster, what your brain does is it takes a screenshot of it, and it just doesn't end there. After taking the screenshot, when that actual trauma, the situation ends, it sits and puts back again and again and again to get into the details of it. It goes to the details of it. You know what? You will not be doing this consciously. This is not going to happen consciously. This is going to happen subconsciously. Your brain will be processing on it. Have you experienced this? Maybe when you get up in the morning, you would have thought about something. Maybe you may not able to recollect it. But maybe in the afternoon when you are taking a shower, somewhere the thought pops up for which you thought in the morning. The answer comes in the afternoon when you were showering, where you wouldn't have thought about it after that. This is basically because that question has gone to the subconscious and your brain was processing it. And when it could pick up an answer, it's bringing it to the conscious level, and you feel, yeah, this is the answer. This is exactly what flash bulb memory will do. So once it takes a screenshot, it takes it to the subconscious, and every details of it will be noted. And that again never ends there. After getting the details, it sets the belief system. What belief system it will say? Okay, this trauma happened to me from my very close friend. I believed him so much, I trusted him so much, but he was the one who failed me. So after repeatedly going through these details in your subconscious, it comes to a belief system that, it's better not to keep close friends. Have distance with your friends. The belief system is close friendship is not healthy. They may hurt you. This is the belief system you will get. So you will be working on from that belief system. You may not consciously know This is exactly what was your belief system on not making friends. But currently you may face the symptom that you are not able to make friends. Even if you make friends, you keep them in distance, you don't want to get closer. All these things will be the symptoms that you're experiencing, for which you may be condemning yourself. You may say, I don't know why, I'm a kind of introvert. All these explanations you may give about yourself, but actual root is down there in the belief system that you made based on your flash bulb memory. Hope you understand. And next is source amnesia. Source amnesia, again, it may sound technical, but let me put it very easy for you. This is something that happens in your childhood. Your brain remembers the actual message that it has to take, maybe the emotional message or the event message, the person details, that's all. But the source, but the other details it may not remember. For example, you may believe that all short people, we would have heard this Tamil, saying that kallana nambrano kullana namba kudadu. In the sense, you can even believe a liar, but not a person who is short in stature. Why so? Where came this? We don't know. So the actual source will be lost in the memory, but we get only a belief system and we fix that belief system, that's all. Maybe you may have such rules in your life, so many rules. When you turn back and ask, where did I get this belief system from? You may not remember. That is source amnesia. So we all have many belief systems of that sort. Just because it is repeated in the culture, just because it is repeated in the family, just because your mom said it, this is how you practiced it, you may have some belief systems underneath. And you don't know, most of the belief systems, we don't know the source, where it came from. Why am I believing this way? You just ask yourself, you don't know the answer. We don't know where it came from, but we started believing it because it came from a significant source. So what is the problem of source amnesia? Why is that you should not believe something that has been said? Because we'll also be judging the reality likewise, or our brain will try to put its own narrativeness. Because it doesn't have a source, our brain fills up with all exaggerations or some narratives so that you try to fit your belief system to the current situation. The current reality may be completely different. Maybe, let me take the same saying that I said, even if you can believe a liar, but not a person of a small stature, and you happen to have a friend whom you feel like very trustworthy, but unfortunately, if that was your belief system, your brain tries to give a narrative. It tries to pick up one small incident where that friend failed you or lied to you or, breached your trust and exaggerates and tells you, you know what? See the belief system. That's why, that's why the old people say this. And come to a conclusion. And that's how you will view the reality. And eventually what will happen? You will not end up having healthy relationship or friendship with that person. This is just an example, okay? So maybe I think you can always put yourself into your own realities and see this. And next memory is the emotional memory. Many a times we may not remember the details of the situation, but you'll have that memory alone, emotional memory. For example, just the fear, just the kind of guilt, just the kind of shame. Only that feeling will be, the emotions will be existing, but not the other details. For example, if particular thing has happened in a railway station for you, the next time when you go to railway station, situations will be very normal, safe, familiar people, you are walking with your own family, all these things, but somewhere your emotion will have this memory, and that memory comes to play because that place is related to this emotion. And then that emotion pops up, that's it. You cannot think straight. You will have distorted. For example, let's take this way. In the same railway station, maybe you lost your ticket and you got caught by the TA, the ticket checker, and you've been embarrassed in the past. And so there is a kind of feeling that is associated, emotion that is associated with that particular place. And you happen to go to the same place the next day, or, after 5 years, when you go there, what stays with you is that emotion. not the other details. That emotion stays with you, and that emotion will tell you, you know what, don't take, train, better take the bus. Why did you make the decision? You don't know. Somewhere you don't feel good. That's where intuition comes into play. That's why we say gut feeling. It's not gut feeling and intuition. It's basically your brain is telling, based on the emotional memory, you're not safe here. There is a high chance that you may get caught, because that was a strong memory that got registered. Okay, so these are the basis on which, or the lenses that you use to see your reality, and this is the lens that determines your thinking process. And the last one is the detailed memory. Detailed memory, again, it has its relationship with flash bulb memory. They go hand in hand. Flash bulb memory, it takes a snapshot, and later detailed memory comes into play, and it takes every pin and every dots of the event and sets a belief system. Okay, so for your belief system, memory plays a very important role. Next, your reality. Now that you have your belief system based on your survival brain's instinct, or with your emotional brain's instinct, and next comes your memory, which can give you an error in decision making. And now it's the reality. Here comes the actual challenge that you meet every moment. Okay, our brain built a reality from incoming data, but this involves a lot of filtering of information. This filtering process constructs a lot of way we perceive the world. So this reality is basically, this is when there is a conflict between your hindbrain, your emotion brain, and your decision-making brain. So every time you make a decision, every time there's a reality check, every time that you think, these three brains come into a conflict. Your belief system comes to play, your emotion memory comes to play. Which wins is what you get as a product, or is what you get as a thought, and that makes your decision. Your brain, finally, your frontal brain is put to such a distress that it has to evaluate all the messages. That is from your belief system, that is from your emotion brain, and that is coming from outside. So everything is now choking your thinking brain. Most of the time, when we, why we are not productive is because our brain is giving a lot of its energy in settling this conflict between your own self, between your belief system, your memory, and what is coming from outside. And your brain is busy doing this, and you're not able to think, you're not able to come up with new ideas, critical thinking, you're not prospering, you're not thriving, you're not getting to your potential, basically because most of your energy, brain energy, is spent on solving these conflicts. Or otherwise, your brain, your frontal brain is trying to filter the situation through all these lenses. Look at the distress that your brain is going through, So through this filtering, through all these lenses, your brain is coming with so many distortions, which you believe you're right in thinking, you are correct, you're rationally strong. But what happens is you have distortions. So cognitive distortions are biased perspectives we take on ourselves and the world around us, and they are irrational thoughts and beliefs that we unknowingly reinforce over time. Okay, so let me quickly finish. We are almost there. So what are the impacts? What cognitive distortion does to us? What it does to us? Basically, it damages your clear thinking. In one word, if I have to say, it damages your clear thinking. And if you don't have clear thinking, your reaction or your response to a particular situation will be distorted. So now let's move on to the different kinds of distortion that we may have. Now we know that, we saw that we do have the source, our belief system, our memory error, which can play a big role in our thinking pattern. And now let's see what are such kind of the thinking patterns. Okay, first is all or nothing thinking. What is that? This kind of thinking is you look at things in absolute, that is black and white. It should be, I should be either good or bad. If I do something wrong, we will not be specific. We will not be saying, okay, I did the wrong in this. No, they'll say, if I do something wrong, then I'm a bad person. Say either good or bad, yes or no. No middle ground. They don't know. They cannot think in a way that, this is okay sometimes. This person did, the very same person had excelled in that exam. He just failed in this. No, they cannot think in this way. If I fail in particular thing, that's it. I'm a loser. I'm a failure. That is all or nothing thinking. I just want you to think, just reflect for yourself. Do you have this kind of thinking pattern? Okay. Next is overgeneralization. Overgeneralization is something you view a negative event as a never-ending pattern of defeat. If there is one defeat in you, you feel everything else is going to fall apart. For example, if some harm has happened to you because of a person of age around 40, a male age 40, then you come to a conclusion that every 40-year-old, 40s, men in 40s are dangerous, harmful, overgeneralization. Okay. Next is mental filter. You dwell on the negatives and ignore the positives. See, when I tell you, you did this, you did very good in this subject, but there is little improvement that you have to make in statistics, but you're really excelling in math. What you do, mental filter is, it filters the positive and it just takes the negative. These distortions again gets back to your core belief system. That's why we saw all those things. Okay, so mental filter is basically, it filters your positives. It just keeps it, everyone are doing good in statistics. What's good in me getting appreciated? But you know what, Max, I'm always poor, I'm always weak. So this is a filter, mental filter we use. Next, fourth distortion is discounting the positives. Again, they both are kind of the same. Discounting the positive, what happens is you insist that your accomplishment and positives don't count, or it's just because of luck. You know what, this is a one time that I passed. I generally don't pass. This is just the luck. I don't know, maybe the teacher who corrected just gave me some grace mark. Some definitions or reasoning that you give for past positives happened for you, or some good thing that you have accomplished. You will never appreciate yourself for the good thing that you're doing. You will never, appreciate or take up the credit for your accomplishments. That is a distortion. Next, jumping to conclusion. What is jumping to conclusion? Usually jumping to conclusion, we have two. One is mind reading, another is fortune telling. Mind reading is something you assume that people are reacting negatively to you when there's no definite evidence for this. So mind reading is, you feel somewhere, I know why this person is doing. Somewhere you will be sitting and reading the mind of other people and coming to a conclusion, this person did this because he thought this way about me. This is jumping to conclusion. No, you are not here to read others' mind. Some people come to me as psychologists, they come and tell me, ma'am, tell me about what I think. You know what? Psychologists are not here to read your mind. Basically, if we could read our own mind, if we could think of our own thinking process, we don't want others to read our mind, and you no need to, have to read others' mind as well. So it's again a distortion, jumping to conclusion. And in jumping to conclusion, there's another distortion, that is fortune telling. You arbitrarily predict that things will turn out badly. This is very much a true factor with fear. Last week we spoke about fear. One distortion that people will have who have fear is fortune telling. They'll be saying, this is what, this will be the trajectory. This will be the consequence of this. They'll be prophesying about the future. And finally, when the same thing happens, they'll tell you, didn't I tell you this? I know this is how it will happen. You know what? Your words has power. When you speak, when you think about certain things and when you speak, your words has power. Just because you said it happened, it's not that it has to happen that way. It is the power of your thought and the power of your word that has given this consequence, or not it has to go in that. You have to keep this in remembrance. Fortune telling, or prophesying about yourself, self-fulfilling prophecy, we call it in psychology. That is, they'll tell something bad about themselves, and when it happens, they say, I know this is what will happen to me. I predicted it all before. No, it's a distortion. You have to be careful about it. If you're doing it, it's a distortion. Please mark it down. You have to come out of it. And next is magnification or minimization. They'll blow up things. Okay. Next distortion is emotional reasoning. Very, very important. Emotional reasoning. This is your reason from how you feel. Because I feel this way, this is how the things will be. This is emotional reasoning. I feel like an idiot, or I really must be one, or I don't feel like doing this, so I'll put it off. So all these things, because I feel this way, I won't do it. Because I feel this way, I will do this. So these are all emotional reasoning. This is again a distortion. Next, should statements. Perfectionists basically fall into this. Should statement is something you criticize yourself or other people with shoulds or shouldn'ts, musts or oughts. Okay, so you have to do this. This is how it should be. If things are not that way, you will either blame yourself or blame others. It's again a distortion. And next is labeling. You identify with your shortcomings. Instead of saying, I made a mistake, you tell yourself, I'm a jerk, I'm a loser, I'm a failure. You label yourself. You don't mention it as a mistake. Okay, that's labeling. That's again a distortion. Then the last one is the personalization or self-blaming. So this is something where you try to blame yourself for whatever that has happened around. You know, there was one person who came and told me, you know what, I am a kind of a curse because with whomever I make friendship, that person will have some problem in the family. So then I must be a curse or I must be a failure. It's better I should die. No, it's a distortion. You're blaming yourself. The other person may have some problem just because of something else. Okay, so these are some distortions that I want you to, remember when you take check of yourself. And next is changing your thinking. We are not going to dwell a lot in this because this is what we are going to handle next week. Because as I told you again, giving 1, 2, 3 steps for solving or changing your thinking pattern doesn't work. Because we are working on thoughts and belief system. It's a kind of understanding, it's a process. Okay, so this is what we'll do in next week, but I'm just going to give a glimpse of what's going to happen next week. So this is just an intro, okay? So being cognizant of our brain's weakness and distortion is the first step where you can come out of your distorted thinking. First of all, you should be able to understand your weakness and distortions. I mentioned a list of distortions for you. If you're able to, nail few things and say, yes, I do have this distortion, that is the first step that you can take to come out of distortion. Okay. And next step that we may handling next week is decatastrophizing, and then following will be, working on with your inner roots. These are for next week. Okay. So one thing that I want you to give you this week for changing your brain is the few list to understand whatever that you believe. Once you find out your distortion, I want you to question your distortion with these questions. That is whether it is a fact or an opinion. Fact or an opinion. I've just listed a few things. I'll quickly finish this. With this, I'll end. So the first thing is, I am a failure. This is a fact or an opinion? It's an opinion. It's not a fact. I am uglier than him or her. Again, it's an opinion. I said no to a friend in need. Is it a fact or opinion? It's a fact. You did it. It's a fact. A friend in need said no to me. True. It's a fact. Okay. So likewise, I want you to question your distortion as a first step. After identifying your distortion, I want you to work in this. Check your thoughts, whether it's an opinion or it's a fact, it's a reality that is happening. And next week, we'll go on from there. After you identify whether it's a fact or an opinion or the belief system that you have mixed with that, then from there, we'll move on to help ourselves on how to come out or reconstruct our belief system and how to merge, have a healthy communion between our brains, between our survival brain, emotion brain, and with your decision-making brain, which is ultimately nothing but emotional intelligence. Okay, so hope this session was helpful. Next week, we'll catch up with emotional intelligence and how to handle our thoughts.